Young soldiers on tour have it hard. Harsh environments and long hours in poor conditions mean morale can be hard to keep up at times, but essential if the job is to be done. Perspectives sometimes change, and things which may normally seem macabre or dark can inspire laughter. Shooting a target with the opposite leader's image on it with paints and munitions round may seem funny whilst in theatre and no doubt relieved the tensions of an operational stressful tour for a second. But I'm afraid I can't condone it. That said, I was no angel when I was in, and this is by no means the worst crime ever committed. They were not plotting a coup, and they never intended the footage to go viral. Social media, the source to drop a minute, has also amplified the mishap. The lads involved, and I do know who they are top operators in a great unit. I don't believe they should be hung out to dry for this. I genuinely believe the exposure and embarrassment to their regiment caused will teach them a lesson.
I'm probably on your side, I think. I think that people do things, they do them for a joke at a particular time, and, you know, there does seem to be a bit of an overreaction. I mean, if you look at all the tweets and everything else that's come around, a lot of people are taking it terribly seriously.
Some of the words that I've seen used have been horrific.
Yeah.
Now, horrific to me is a body with no limbs left on it or something like that. Horrific is not somebody... All right, they've had a little bit of a laugh, a joke at someone's expense, but that's not horrific, is it? But
there is something in amongst it all, isn't there? I mean, why isn't the Prime Minister up there? Why is the Leader of the Opposition?
Who's to say if they had a picture of the Prime Minister, they wouldn't have put it up there? You know what I mean?
Am I the only person who takes this seriously? It is serious, Phil. It is serious. It's because it's serious for a number of reasons.
I'll let you go. Go on,
Here's why I think
please.
it's serious. We live in a climate where MPs and politicians face serious threats to their safety. Joe Cox was murdered during the Brexit campaign. We've had an MP recently who found out that there was a neo-Nazi plot to attack her with a machete. This is stuff that is really happening, first of all. Secondly, the armed forces of which you're so proud, of which we're all proud, have a high standard. And the reason that we have a high standard is because we condemn things like this. If we were to diminish the importance of things like this, we wouldn't have a high standard. So it's very important to hold our armed forces to account.
Phil has condemned it.
I know.
No one is condoning it. Let's just rein this back a little bit.
Well,
do you know where the media... do you know what really worries me? If these 5 blokes had been blown up in a Land Rover in Kabul last week, it wouldn't have got the same level of attention it has for what they were doing.
Yeah.
They are also, those 5 blokes, God forbid that we came under attack, they would actually put themselves in harm's way. They would take a bullet to protect Jeremy Corbyn, Theresa May or whatever. Many, many years ago, when I was a local newspaper reporter, I went to a fire station and the dartboard, it was years ago, had a picture of Margaret Thatcher.
Exactly.
I'm not going to... They no sooner were firefighters going to throw darts really at Margaret Thatcher than these lads or men would shoot. And that is... I'm not praising it, please, but put it in context.
They're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Can I just clarify what I'm saying? I was actually going to say I'm not particularly interested in punishing these particular soldiers. I think it's important we send a message this isn't acceptable because we need to have confidence that armed forces would protect the Leader of the Opposition. And just let me finish. Finally, the reason that I think it's important to analyse not necessarily these individuals, I haven't been calling for them to be punished or court-martialed. What I'm interested in is the root causes of why they were doing this. And I think to have Theresa May and Sajid Javid say that Jeremy Corbyn is a threat to our national security. Sajid Javid said he's downright dangerous. This is the language of our politicians. It is not acceptable to demonise the Leader of the Opposition who plays a crucial role in our constitutional democracy. And that is why we're seeing things like this happening in the armed forces.
Can I just put forward a suggestion? Maybe they chose the photograph of Jeremy Corbyn because he's the man who says he's friends with the IRA and refused to condemn the IRA.
So that's not the point.
No, I'm not condoning. No one's condoning it. We've all said that clearly. But what I think is that, you know, when you have a Labour spokesman saying, this is his quote, "This behaviour is alarming and unacceptable." I mean, it's an ironic joke in itself because, you know, what is alarming and unacceptable is the anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. What is alarming and unacceptable is the Leader of the Opposition praising terrorists and being friends with terrorists. That's alarming and unacceptable.
Let me try and explain this to you.
This is a dark humour.
Let me try and explain dark humour to you, all right? Now, there is a book written by Helen Parr, and it's called Our Boys, and it's about the parachute regiment, I think, on one of the mountains fighting in the Falkland Islands. And one of the guys jokes that he had to lie down for so long he might as well have brought a pillow because of the amount of income he was getting, do you know what I mean? It's humour that you wouldn't normally find it funny. I'm not going to say where I was, but I was in a West African country, and there was someone who'd been shot, and he was laid on a pile of batteries, and somebody quipped that you better get him off there because he's going to ruin his clothes. Now that's not funny, okay? It's not funny now, all right? But when you're actually there, it lightens the load, and when you're seeing honking, hideous things on a daily basis, to make light of it helps you get over it. And that's what I'm trying to get here. These guys are just making light of anything.
Do you
accept
accept there are lines that shouldn't be crossed, though? You do, because you already said you don't condone
I accept that there are lines in normal life that shouldn't be crossed. However,
you already said that. Yeah,
Phil, let me ask you a question. I've never met many soldiers who are on the left in our society. By and large, soldiers like you take a sort of fairly right-wing position.
I'd say I'm more middle to right. I wouldn't say I'm far right by any stretch of the imagination. Do you know what I mean?
Well, what you call middle to right, some of us would call a lot further. All I'm saying is,
I'm fairly liberal.
That's the only concern about this. That if they were putting up pictures of some joke figure, but they're not. They're putting up somebody who the right of the Conservative Party sees as a real threat. Is what they say about Corbyn. And that's the only worrying thing about it.
If we look at social media, every single day, there are terrible, terrible things written on there. There are terrible jokes. There are terrible things written about Corbyn and Theresa May. And no one does a damn thing about it. No one turns ahead. And suddenly these 5 guys are going to be castigated.
They're shooting him.
They're shooting him with paint bullets. Paint bullets. Not real bullets, it's paint bullets.
Somebody said on my phone-in show today, and we'll tell you what the Ministry of Defence says in just a moment, but Phil, I want to put this to you. Someone who's ex-military said on my phone-in today that there's nothing more dangerous than bored soldiers.
Absolutely, no, I agree with that.
And that is the reality. It's probably the senior officers.
Devil makes good work,
It's probably the senior officers who needed to keep an eye on what was going on. So Ministry of Defence, of course, have opined on this. We are aware of a video circulating on social media. This behaviour is totally unacceptable and falls well below the high standards the Army expects, and a full investigation has been launched. That's the end of that, as it should. What will happen to them? Through the grapevine, I'm hearing they've probably been removed from theatre already. So they've already been pulled from doing the job that they were doing, and doing well by all accounts.
Will they lose their jobs?
I don't know. I'm hoping that with enough public pressure, this whole thing will dampen down. I'm not saying they don't need a ticking off. I'm not saying they don't need a few extras. And I'm not saying they shouldn't put their feet together in front of the Colonel. But what I am saying is, don't throw the book at these geezers. They are good lads. But they will... Presumably, the worst punishment for them is they've let the regiment down. Absolutely, and you know they'll be feeling. Explain that to the viewer why you feel that sort of brotherhood. Because they are so proud, so inherent, especially the parachute regiment. They are paratroopers through and through. You know, some people would even call these guys animals. Sometimes say, yes, we are animals, but we're good animals. Do you know what I mean? They love it. They love the job. They love their country. They love what they're doing. All right, and they might have demonised somebody, you know, for 5 seconds in a little bit of a joke.
But Phil, let me ask you, would they understand what the fuss is about?
Do you know what? I don't. Their operational commitment and the way that they'd have applied themselves into what they're doing, they won't be bothered about Brexit at the moment in Afghanistan. They'll be doing their job. They'll be looking after They'll be looking after each other's backs. They'll be doing their work.
Sure, but would they understand that this is? They should.
Yeah, they would do. When the wheel stalls down, and let's just go somewhere. I don't think, from what I've heard, that it was ever intended to go viral. It was a Snapchat which someone else has screenshot and subsequently sent out because they thought it was funny. All right, so those lads there never thought this was going to hit the public. It was just a private thing. Right, on the Rangers.
There were no officers present. I don't think
there was any officers present. No.
What do you think the officers would they have recognised that this was a pretty silly thing to do?
They would have, of course, they would have recognised it as a silly thing. I think in the light of day, most of the soldiers would have recognised it and probably still recognise it as a silly thing to do. However, they were relieving some stress, tension and boredom that they would have experienced at the end of a very heavy 5-month, 6-month tour of Afghanistan.
The issue is not them relieving tension and boredom. You know, Carol, you said this isn't political. It is political.
No, that's the whole...
Right.
You said soldiers are removed from politics.
No, I'm going to put this to bed.
Soldiers are removed from politics. The reason this is problematic is that they chose a political figure who represents something in our democracy. That is why it is disturbing for people to see them using him as a target.
I didn't say it wasn't political. I said when you're in Afghanistan, you're so far removed from politics and what is going on and the mood of the country. You don't get that.
Then why choose Jeremy Corbyn?
Right, Carol, come here. I'm going to put this to bed right now. Okay. I'm going to put this to bed for the whole nation. You people over there as well. Right, I'm going to put this to bed, OK? Are the paratroopers that did that any worse than somebody who would buy one of these, a Jeremy Corbyn hate dog toy, and give it to their animal? I mean, seriously, do you know what I mean? There you go. It makes me want to bite it. And even afterwards laughing at that one. So come on, let's lighten up about the whole thing. Parachute regiment, I salute you.